What's going on, folks? Today I want to talk to you about the mind, the human psyche. What makes us behave the way that we do, and what makes us continuously want to suppress our fellow man. Because we have the narcissistic tendencies, and that is what allows us to manipulate and deceive those who are close to us. Now, I realize that a lot of these conditions come from childhood or come from your family experiences. Because if you have a narcissistic family, then you're probably going to be developed in a way that is dysfunctional. So what your parents will do, your narc parents, they may, push you guys to compete, meaning your siblings, and they will have that special child and you'll be the black sheep, and they'll always compare everything that other child, that golden child, does relative to you, right? And you're the target because you're designated as the black sheep. And so you can't do anything right, and everything that this other sibling does is the better thing. And so you grow up in this environment most of your life, and then you become an adult, and then you still spend the rest of your adult years trying to impress and please your parents, who will always dangle that carrot in front of your face and want you to seek out their validation because they're sick. Now, when we look into it further, we see that they probably came from a similar background in their family environment. And so we understand that these types of behaviors are passed on. Now, when there's a lot of people in society, which I told you guys that I do working tallies, and I count up all of the negative people and experiences versus positive during any given day. And I do that just so I can have an understanding of how many people out there who are actually mentally disturbed. Because you don't have to necessarily be batshit crazy and put in one of these insane asylums to be considered or classified with a mental disorder. A lot of people are undiagnosed and walk around in their day-to-day, and only until there's some type of trigger do you see that there's a really serious problem going on. Sometimes people are murdered, sometimes violent things happen, and it's one of those types of situations where you have to go into things being prepared. I always talk about preparation. I'm hearing a lot of other folks now starting to talk about this, but it's important, folks, for you to realize, we have a very humdrum way of seeing things in life, and we struggle with trying to see where people may harm us, especially when they give us red flags. Now, if they're not giving you a red flag, there's no need to question, their motives. But most of the time we see these red flags and we just ignore them because we think it's something that we're dealing with. And it's in our heads, and it is in our heads. But we want to create scenarios that eliminate effectively the narcissistic games and environments, because they're not going to do anything but compromise your mental stability. So what you guys have to do is, that preparation thing will keep coming back, and that'll be the theme, because you need to be prepared. You need to go into situations expecting, and not necessarily just being pessimistic about who you're going to deal with, but you need to be prepared for when it happens, for whenever these things happen, the games, because it's all about control. Now, in some situations, I've seen this happen in the morning where, in the office, someone would come in, and this was during the working times, but someone would come in the office and they would have something great that they wanted to share with everyone about. Maybe their child had a birthday party, or maybe, their child got a good grade or something, and they'll tell people about it. And they'll always have that one-upmanship that the other person, the narc person, will try to establish in that conversation. If your child got all A's on the test, where their child, did better than that. And they'll have to let you know that, because it's all about the competitiveness in their minds. Devaluing you for the purpose of uplifting themselves. And so they will always have something better than you. You could say, I flew to the moon and back. They will say they went to Jupiter and back. You know what I'm saying? So you get what I'm saying. There's always going to be that one-upsmanship that they're going to show you. And it's going to become annoying. And after a while of seeing it several times in several instances, you should realize that this person has some mental defunct going on. Some insecurities, and they're playing out in your conversation. Or how about when they come up to you and they tell you, or they ask you about something in your life only for the purpose of one-upping you in the same fashion. So in these instances, this person will come up to you and they may ask about your children, or they may ask you something about some accomplishment that you recently have achieved. And they're just waiting for you to say whatever that is. So then as soon as you start off, they cut you off and they start telling you about something better that they did relative to the subject. And that can be very annoying, because they needed the validation. They needed to show you that they're better. It's all insecurity. It's all based on that. So we're tired of dealing with these people. Me, myself, personally, am very tired of looking and dealing with certain types of people every single day. Right? I was so inspired to talk about this morning. I had to come out here. It's hot outside. I got in the shade. And I'm trying to stay cool out here. But it was important for us to have this conversation, because I know many of you out there are very, very frustrated at this point. And you're just like me on some level, but I have a bigger insight to understand that a lot of these people are dysfunctional because they came from dysfunction. So they weren't equipped going out here into the world. And as children, they were completely vulnerable to all of the things that they were exposed to in that childhood. You know, sometimes the parents will abuse the child, maybe sexually, sometimes physically, right? But in these instances, nothing's going to happen, but the child is going to develop in a dysfunctional way. And then you'll have to deal with that in your present day environments. Most of the time, I like to talk about the workplace, because if you're a grown adult and you don't have to work a job, then you're going to be somewhere on a beach, or you're going to be somewhere relaxing and not having to deal with all of the things that come with having being exposed to dysfunctional people. But in work environments, many of us do not have that choice. And so you have to make a living. And so you have to go out here and be exposed to these people and be in these environments. Okay? And, you know, you're doing this for a paycheck, obviously, to put food on the table, pay the bills and everything. So you have to, or you feel that you have to put up with certain levels of bullshit. And so you deal with these things on a day-to-day basis. You deal with the flying monkeys. You deal with the master planner bosses who play games with your life in ways that they can. You know, you may be scheduled to get off at a certain time, and you've been working that shift for 10, 15 years or something. And then when the narc boss realizes that, you know, that you getting off is imperative to something you have to do later on that day, or something important in your life. You may have daycare scenarios. You may have another job or whatever. Once they find out this information, which is why I told you guys to never disclose personal things about your life, because they will use those things on a later date. So you have these situations where they'll play these games with your schedule or something, and they'll only do it because you gave them that information. And they'll schedule you for the rest of your life, the next 20 years, if you're there at their job that long. They'll schedule you for a time that's later than the time you needed to get off. And so you'll never, ever again see that time where you got off to be able to do this or do that. Because that's what they want to do. They want to take away the things that you want to do in your life. They want to control your life. So you not letting them know is you being prepared and understanding who you're dealing with at all times. And that's why you're not telling them these things, because you would have learned, or maybe you can listen to me and you can learn from my examples, and you can go into your workspace tomorrow and you can start fresh and realize what you're dealing with. Don't tell the flying monkeys, because telling them is just like telling that master planner. They only serve the bidding of that master planner, right? So, you know, you have to prepare. And I'm driving at home today, but you have to prepare for any of these situations, because you're going to continuously deal with dysfunctional people every day of your life. And how you go forward is how you maintain your mental stability, or how you're going to do that. You can't let them get under your skin. Now, what you don't want to do is what I told you before. You don't want to let on that you're in pain. So when they step on your foot or they pinch you a little too hard, you never want to yell ouch, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for your pressure points. They're looking for those places where you're vulnerable and sensitive that they can poke and prod it at. And that's what they're doing. So when you say ouch, and in this case with that scheduling, you saying ouch is letting the boss know, well, hey, I had to pick my kid up today, I had to do this today, I have another job, or whatever you're saying. And they're going, okay. Because what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, this job requires you to be here this time and that time. And so if you don't want to meet the terms of the job, then, you know, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And they'll tell you that, because that was the plan all along, to put you in a situation where they could take something away from you. Obviously, if you're working every day, you need that job, and they know that. And that's why I tell you guys to make sure that you prepare by saving up money, having your ducks in a row, so that if these things occur, you can just walk the fuck out and you don't have to deal with the bullshit. Because that effectively is giving them the power. Them knowing that they have this power over you is why they're going to continuously do what they're doing. So you have to know this, right? Take heed to what I'm saying about this. Narcissists have a psychological problem that cannot be repaired. For one thing, they don't themselves know how to acknowledge that they have a problem. They don't see that they have a problem. Me? Who, me? This is what they're thinking. So when you have a person who's thinking, who, me? Then you have to realize that they're not in a position to accommodate you for what they're doing to you or help you out with that. They're not able to stop doing what they're doing because it's part of the game. They need that game. They live for that game. Now what you want to do is you want to break the rules a little bit. You want to stop playing altogether. Just stop playing. Don't say anything about that schedule. You just work the schedule that you're working. If they change it on you, just work that schedule. And in meanwhile, in your mind, you're looking for a way out. You're looking for that other job that would accommodate. You're doing all of these things and keeping your mouth shut because you're playing the game in that way, in that fashion, and that's the best way you can play it. So then when you finally decide to let these people know, I'm leaving, this is my last day or my 2 weeks or something, then they will be awesomely shocked about how you were able to do this. They didn't know that this was coming. They didn't have time to prepare themselves for what you were going to do. So you always want to stay a step ahead of these fucking assholes. You know? You always want to do that. So you can start your week off with a better frame of mind and knowing that you have tools at your disposal to deal with the low-grade people that you'll deal with any given day. And that's in any situation. Doesn't really matter if it's a job. It could be just in your family. You could have toxic people who like to insult you. You may be overweight. You may have people in your family who want to prod and poke at you about your weight and what you've done about your weight or managing your diabetes or whatever your condition is. You'll have these people who will use that to charge you and bring you down a little bit lower because they see your potentials. Whatever those things are, they see that you're great. And they just don't like that. It makes them feel less than. You get it? So I want y'all to apply that. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure that you understand who you're dealing with at all times. And do not disclose any information to the narcissist nor their flying monkey minions. And that will be imperative for you going forward, to your peace of mind going forward. I love bad behavior, people. I do. But I also love people who are planning and who are prepared for the worst. For those people who understand who they're dealing with, kudos. you guys are going to be okay because you are meeting the problem head on. Y'all like the videos and share the videos, and we'll talk soon. Y'all have a good day. Take care.